Okay. So this is written by Sadananda. And there are different schools of thought within Vedanta. The first one, of course, there were certain Vedantists who precede Bhagavan Shankaracharya. The Kevala Advaita means non-dual Vedanta. Advaita, not Dvaita. That means absolutely without any alternatives. That monistic, non-dualistic Vedanta came into picture with Gaudapadacharya. Gaudapadacharya was the Dada Guru, the grandparent Guru in a certain sense of Bhagavan Shankaracharya. His Guru was Govindapada and his Guru was Gaudapadacharya. He wrote a commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad called in the form of, you know, poetic couplets, and these are called Mandukya Karika, where he denies the existence of the visible world. It is there, but fundamentally not there. This whole thing, according to some people, was kind of heavily influenced by certain insights in Buddhism. This is one allegation. Some people have that point of view, which is of no terrible spiritual significance, except that it is an academic point of view and we need to respect it. And then Gaudapadacharya, that particular Mandukya Karika was commented upon by Sankaracharya. And Sankaracharya wrote commentaries on the 10 Upanishads. Some people, including Svetasvatara, will become 11. Some people say Svetasvatara Upanishad commentary by Sankaracharya could be by some other Sankaracharya, one of the Sankaracharya's, later day Sankaracharyas of Sringeri, and then attributed to him. And he wrote commentary on the Brahma Sutras and Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Sutra is a very, very cryptic insights, which the sutras try to present us a conclusive understanding of the meaning of Vedic statements, Vedantic statements, resolving the apparent contradictions. So that is called Brahma Sutras. There was a sutra tradition. You have Sankhya Sutras, you have Yoga Sutras, you have Brahma Sutras. That is called Tarka Prasthana or Nyaya Prasthana. In Vedanta, whether you are a Bhakti Vedantist or you are a Advaita Vedantist or Vishishta or Veda Veda, there are different Vedanta schools. The three critical things that you need to comment on or you study or take into your consideration include the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita is Smriti Prasthana. Upanishads present the Shruti Prasthana. And Brahma Sutra presents the Tarka or Nyaya Prasthana. From the Upanishads, you have direct access to the key insights of Vedanta. They are Shruti, not mediated through any human being. And then you have Smriti, which is Bhagavad Gita. Why is it Smriti, not Shruti? It's as good as Upanishads, but then it is part of Mahabharata, which is a Paurusheya text. What is Paurusheya? It has an author. It has a human author. Paurusheya. With some grammatical prakriya, Purusha. Something associated with the Purusha becomes Paurusheya. There is a rule for Adi Vriddhi. So the Pu becomes Pau, right? And Paurusheya, there is a particular pratyaya which comes into picture. That word gets modified. Like Dasaratha's son becomes Dasarathi. Similarly, it becomes Paurusheya. And then this Smriti, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita is included in it. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita is considered to be a very, very powerful summary of the key insights of the Upanishads presented by Bhagavan, which we have done. And then finally, whatever you read as direct statements in Shruti, there are logical explanations as to why the Shruti is talking about anything like that. And these are dealt with, these are explained by Shankaracharya in his commentaries. Similarly, there are different traditions and they will like to interpret those statements in different ways to present their point of view. So Ramanujacharya wrote certain commentaries. Madhvacharya of the Dvaita Mata, Ballabacharya, he wrote his own commentaries. They all have their own commentaries. Prior to Shankaracharya, there were some early Vedantists, and these early Vedantists were sort of Vedavadis, Veda and Aveda together. The Brahman and Sansara, there is a distinction and there is also unity. Even though some of them call themselves Advaitins, they thought they were Advaitins, but they were in certain ways Vedavadis. Very logical arguments. Sankara is much more logical and conclusive and takes an extreme position. They are trying to take intermediate positions. God and human beings, there is similarity and dissimilarity, but Advaita Vedanta Shankaracharya says, Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. Why so? Because by Jiva, we are not looking at the human body, human mind, human emotions. When you actually see the foundational reality of a human being, which is absolutely invisible to the mind, and that you can experience in extreme deep meditation, when you are meditating on it, only that Chaitanya remains, everything else kind of flushed out. That particular state, that consciousness is same as what is Brahman. Similarly, out of Brahman, you have to flush out that particular set of attributes which makes Brahman available to us, visible as Ishvara or knowable as Ishvara. So Brahman with Maya Upadhi, with Maya title, that magical power becomes Ishvara, and the same pure Chaitanya with Avidya Upadhi or a limiting set of attributes of ignorance become Jiva. That is how we try to distinguish them. Now, so the key takeaway point from here is that Vedanta Sara, what we are discussing right now in the Prasthanatraya, he sort of summarizes, like we tell, there are different kinds of texts. You have Smriti, Smriti, and you have the Nyaya Prasthana. I forgot to mention about it. What is Nyaya Prasthana? Nyaya or Tarka Prasthana is logical or argumentative presentation of the insides of the Shrutis to remove apparent contradictions, because there are certain Shruti Vakyas which would indicate that Bhagavan has created the samsara and the samsara is physically real. Please understand that whether it's Madhvacharya or it's Ballabacharya or it is Bhaskara or Nimbarka or Ramanujacharya, all these people were extremely learned. They weren't speaking anything out of their mind. They are always taking different insights of the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita to present their point of view. And in doing so, they were looking at Vadarayana's Brahma Sutras. There were no commentaries available. Nobody has written any commentaries before Shankaracharya, to my mind, and therefore he becomes the biggest authority, and all other Vedantists and scholars and great preceptors have largely tried to show where they stand vis-a-vis where Sankara stands in his commentary. So everybody has used him to understand, and then many maybe agree or disagree or deviate a little, qualify their positions, refine their positions. Now, so this Tarka Prasthana is a little difficult, but there's a lot of set of arguments because he's sort of looking at large large set of different kinds of statements in the Upanishads to drive home his point, sometimes to having cross reference to different other Smritis, Bhagavad Gita, sometimes even other Puranas to explain why it is written like this in this particular Brahma Sutra. So Brahma Sutra is a brief, very cryptic set of rules. They are presented like rules. Very simple, very like equations in mathematics. And then you have to expand it. You have to figure out what it means. Why the Sutra tradition was there, you know what? Everything was not written those days. They had to be remembered. To write more, it will be very difficult for you to remember. They had to already remember the Vedas of their own sakhas. So these Brahmin scholars were already burdened with remembering these all rules of the Panini, the sutras. Then you have to understand the Sankhya and other schools of thought, the different principles and this and that. Vedas you have to remember. In addition to that, new books are coming. So the Patanjali wrote Yoga Sutras. They all wrote in very brief, cryptic form, using a few number of words. They presented as so. What is yoga? Chitta vritti nirodha. He just writes that much. Commentators write 1.5 pages on that particular sutra to explain it what it means. So they relied on the wisdom of the teachers to ensure that the wisdom behind that particular principle travels to the next generation of students, and they become teachers. They, send it down. That's how things are handed down through the Guru Parampara. But certain commentators wanted to make it recorded in black and white to reduce confusion. So they became great commentators. Sadananda, what he's writing here, like we studied Tattva Bodha, we studied Atma Bodha, these are called Prakarana Granthas. We also did Swarupa Nirnaya, right, of Sankaracharya. So these are called Prakarana Granthas. What is a Prakarana Grantha? A Prakarana Grantha is essentially taking up a certain set of issues in a school of thought of the Shastra and expand upon them. So to make it easily accessible to the students, to empower them to enter into Shastras. So number one, these are introductory texts, and they are expanding on certain aspects. They are not comprehensively touching all aspects, depending on the level. What are the things a student should study in class 8? Same physics is taught in class 6 and also in MSc, master's degree. What you study is radically different. Similarly, here, Prakarana Granthas are good introductory texts. Vedanta Sara, most of the Prakarana Granthas don't have their own point of views. They largely compile certain points of view and present it. But all these Prakarana Granthas at the same time are coming from a certain school of thought. What they're presenting without getting into deeper analytical details, like you are teaching laws of physics. You mentioned only Newton's laws or work energy power, something briefly in school you studied. Same thing you are dealing with at the master's degree, you are dealing with many complex things. What you have read is correct, appears to be wrong at a next higher level. So remember one thing, that in Prakarana Granthas, whatever conclusions you will hear is good for now. And it will enable us to start reading Upanishads. So you will have some now in the through the commentary of Bhagavad Gita, Atmabodha and Tattvabodha, especially through the Tattvabodha and the Bhagavad Gita, you have got some understanding of what is Vedanta, because Bhagavan is giving some commentary. You have heard them. But you have not tried to bring together these explanations of what is Ishvara, what is Jiva, because the focus of Bhagavad Gita is to give proper guidance to the people as to how they can organize their life in a meaningful manner. And that is the focus of Bhagavad Gita. He's not giving lectures on Vedanta. There are Vedantic interpretation of Bhagavad Gita. You have to accept there are people. So if you look at the Bhagavad Gita interpretation made by Srila Prabhupada of ISKCON, every damn sloka, there will be emphasis on Krishna Bhakti at the end of it. He will not delve into the philosophical details, the analysis, and everything that we did. Other commentators do. Even Madhvacharya, or if you look at Ramanujacharya. Why so? Is it because he was not very erudite? He was not very well educated? No, he was very well educated. But whom is he writing this book for? He wrote this commentary for Western audience who absolutely don't know anything about this whole complex, large philosophical schools of Indian philosophy. And therefore, he had to be more direct in capsule form what will immediately benefit the people. Like you have some fever, the doctor prescribes paracetamol. It doesn't solve the real cause of fever, it reduces the temperature. Similarly, these Prakarana Grantha similarly do not go too deep into all issues, but they give you very reliable understanding to give you some understanding of what Advaita Vedanta is. Please understand this. And this, in Advaita Vedanta, another thing I would like to say, on certain issues like what is Ishvara, what is Srishti, what is God, and there are certain issues on which different schools of Vedanta, they don't quarrel with each other. There is some universal understanding. Like that the Shrutis, the Upanishads are the ultimate insights. You cannot challenge them. There is no disagreement on this between different schools of Vedanta. So this book is a very good introductory Vedantic text. Aparokya Anubhuti is a Prakarana Grantha dealing with only one aspect of Jnana. But again, it summarizes. But Vedanta Sara is a little, I would say, a little more detailed and of a little higher level compared to the Aparokya Anubhuti kind of a text. This is slightly more comprehensive. And he was a very well-known, he's a great Vedantist, Sadananda. So that book will give us different aspects of it. So before we get into the text, do you know what we are going to study in advance? So I need to tell you about it. You know, in our intellectual tradition, whenever anything is being started, we start with a discussion on Anubandha Chatushtaya. What is Anubandha Chatushtaya? What is the subject matter, Vishaya? And then why should I study it, Prayojana? And then who can study it? Am I capable? Adhikari? And then what is Pratipadya Pratipadaka Sambandha? What is the relationship between whatever? And then what is the Sambandha between Adhikari and Prayojana? And this Sambandha. What is the contextuality of this whole thing? And the relatedness. So these things are explained. So when you get into the text, if you look at the contents, you'd see what you're going to study. And look, let's have a close look at the contents. So he starts with the Mangalacharana, where he'll capture this whole idea about Vishaya. Later on in few more slokas, 1 to 12. So he deals with Mangalacharana, Guru Namaskara, then Vedanta, Swarupa Nirupana. What is this Vedanta? Because he's trying to hold your hand and take you to the classroom of Vedanta. Adhikari Nirupana. Are you capable? Should you enter into the shop? We check our purse, isn't it? You are entering into a hotel. You very intelligently request the menu card. Let me see what is there. You're just not looking at the items that are there, and you're also looking at what is the price chart. What kind of a place? Is it affordable? Is it worth it to have a dinner there? And if you don't like it, you come out of it. Adhikari, and then karma and bheda, all these, because then you'll have prayojana, vasana, and all that he explains. Then jnana, ichha, brahma jigyasa, the Brahma Sutra, he touches upon that. And what is the qualification like we did in the Tattva Bodha sadhana chatushtaya? What is sadhana chatushtaya? Viveka, vairagya, samadhamadi, satka sampati, mumukhyutvam. All these he will explain. Then what is Vishaya? What is the subject matter? What is Prayojana? And Adhikara, Sadhana Chatushtaya, Sampannata. Then comes certain key theoretical concepts in Vedanta, and he will explain them. Such as what is Adhyaropa and what is Apavada, what is Adhyasa, because the whole world, as we see, is a superimposition on the Brahman. Like the snake is superimposed on the rope and we see the snake. That means what the mind superimposes, you see. There's a girl wearing a red sweater and you have gone to a temple and she's also doing bhajan. And you look at her and you confuse, oh, my sister is here. How did she come here? Some cousin sister. She has a red sweater. Hairstyle matches. How did she come here and why didn't she ring me up? Where is she staying? All these questions are coming to your mind. And you go and tap on her back and she looks back, oh my God, some other lady. Then you say, sorry, you look like my cousin sister. She's also happy to have another sibling there, a stranger who is a sibling. You realize she is a different person. Similarly, till we tap at the Brahman, till we have experience of the Brahman, we see that as samsara. That's what we say, that all this adhyaropa, what is this adhyaropa, how it happens. Now, if adhyaropa happens, how it happens at the collective level, how it happens, because Brahman is manifest, we'll say, as a book, as a pencil, as a human being, then as the soul collective, as Hiranyagarbha, as Ishvara, that's all we know. So there is a collective, there is the individual. Then we have to make sense of it. So he mentions about this. So these are all concepts. And what is this Ishvara at the collective level? What is Jiva? That we have to understand. Then you remember in Tattva Bodha, we had a discussion about Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, Susupti Avastha, Avastha Traya Viveka. This text also will talk about it. And how even in our individual lives, don't you feel that this whole thing comes into being when we wake up from sleep? Similarly, after Pralaya, this whole Srishti Prakriya, this whole creation, is it a real creation? Is it an apparent creation? Is it a faulty thing that we see as real creation? All these things are discussed. Then we have again done in the Tattva Bodha, what is Thula Sarira, what is Sukshma Sarira, what is Karana Sarira, will be explained a little more detailed here. And what is Buddhi, what is Manas. Very interesting, That is there in Vivek Chudamani also. And what is this Vijnanamaya Kosha, Manamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. So like we did in Bhagavad Gita, these details are not there. These concepts were developed much later. Bhagavad Gita is a much earlier text. The philosophy in all spiritual traditions, first come the insights, then come the explanations. These explanatory tools came into being a little later. These are not captured in great detail in Bhagavad Gita. But then we refer, okay, Bhagavan is referring to Manas. By Atma, he is referring to Antakarana, or he is referring to the body, right? So it's Stula Sarira, it's Annamaya Kosha. Now, Bhagavad Gita doesn't get into all the details, but it brings in the insights of the Upanishads. Vedanta Sara, because it doesn't have to deal with that particular challenging situation of everyday life where we feel a lot of stress and strain, we need divine grace and help in the form of words in Bhagavad Gita. He did not want to make it top heavy. Here, however, they are directly going into the philosophy of Vedanta. So he will talk about this Sukshma, the Jiva we did from chapter 1 till 6 in Bhagavad Gita. You remember the Tvam Padartha? We did Sodhan of it. 6th chapter is the last chapter where we did how to do meditation, how to purify, and then Tat Padartha, the Ishvara Tattva, the Brahma Tattva. We started discussing from chapter 7 until 12, and then Samanvaya, Tat Tvam Asi, from 13th till 18th. Here, we are now going into the tools and techniques which are available for us to understand also the Tvam aspect, the Tat aspect, and the Samanvaya aspect. The words, the technicalities, not in the form of a dialogue, it's direct. Story part is over. You are into theory now. So it's not as beautiful, there is no emotion to feel as you feel in Bhagavad Gita chanting. Here, this is a little more theoretical. You're a little more advanced. Therefore, what do you deal with? So, how the sansara is there, this panchakrita sarira, what is Vyasti, what is Jivatma, what are the schools of thought we have, what Charvaka says, right? There is Pranatmavada, Mana Atmavada, Sarabodha Mata. So, there are different schools of thought about Jivatma. You will read about that. Then what is Adhyaropa and what is Apavada. Like for example, we do Om's Upasana and then we'll go further up. You'll do Vayu Upasana. Like you put a stone or you supari and then you invoke Lord Ganesh, right? You two suparis and you roll them with some threads and put some turmeric and put some vermilion and you place them and you are invoking Ganesh and Ambika, mother and son, to start your puja. That is Adhyaropa. Are they there? No, you are doing Pratika Upasana. And then you go beyond them. So who is Ganesh? Param Brahma is true or Ganesh and Durga are true? Then you explain, no, these are different aspects. I am doing Pratika Upasana. This is a puja. Ultimately, my thing is that Paramatma Tattva. I also want moksha. These Devata Upasanas are intermediate level sadhanas. Very important. So I'm doing it. And then you become Swatantra. Now a devotee of Lord Shiva, she starts a puja. Whom she worships first? Same Ganesh Ambika. Okay, she's not a Saivite, she's a Vaishnavite. She wants to do Krishna puja. Whom does she worship first? Same Ganesh and Ambika. There are certain invocations in the Sanatana tradition, you follow it. So all these are mentioned here, and then you will meditate the Samadhi, what is Sarvikalpaka, Nirvikalpaka. We have dealt with them in chapter 6. Here it will be much more detailed, to the point, with more detailed meditation, because there is no story, there is no warfield. There is no context, it's straight theory, no story. Right? Like teachers want to tell you a concept in initial classes, they'll tell you a story and they will ask, what did you learn? Slowly they come towards the theory. Like the mother shows her the young baby who is learning some mathematics. She shows this is 3 and this is 4. And the same student, when he goes to class 2, she knows this is not 4. These are 4 fingers, he says. What is this? If you ask the student who is out of KG, standard 1, he will say, is this much? He will say 4 fingers. KG 1, just going to school, 4. He doesn't see the difference between 4 and 4 fingers. But the little baby, once he becomes 5.5 or something, he knows 4 fingers, then 4 apples, 4 pencils, 4 pens. He knows 4, and these detailed presentation of 4 with something is different. So understanding 4 is like Vedanta, dissociating it from 4 fingers or 4 pens or 4 human beings. That's how you go from particular, from the detail to the abstract. 4 is an abstract thing. It's not material available to you. Can you give me a 4? So in mathematics, philosophy of mathematics, which you will study, particularly when you go up, there's a lot of debate on the reality of numbers. Are they real or unreal? So there are different schools of thought. A lot of debates between different schools of thought there. So this is how this text will slowly get into different schools of thought. It will take what is the meaning of Vedanta and some basic meaning of what are the rituals, why they are done, and what are the prayaschitta karmas, right? So very interestingly, the book is going to come to an end when it is about to explain to us what is, well, that is the sad part of it, that when you become a little serious and you think that you are ready for Vedanta, the book comes to an end. Okay? So this is the most interesting part of it, that when you think you are there and you want to study Vedanta, the book comes to an end. He only mentions about what is Avarana Sakti, what is Vikshepa Sakti of Maya, how the Sansara appears, what is Vyasti and Samasti, and what are the ways in which people get married. It's very interesting. Vedanta, towards the end, he's talking about marriage. Why the hell? Because no, marriage is not for material pleasure. It is a spiritual act. Because when you come together, you are coming together to perform a few rituals, do some satkarma. The Grahyastha Dharma is actually the foundation of this whole sansara. It's the Grihasthas who make money and they contribute towards spiritual work. All the ashrams are running because of the donation, the churches, the mosques, donation of the Grihasthas. The Grihasthas support the old people, the Grihasthas support the young people. So they are the main part of the body from neck till the thighs. So you cannot say that they are not important, they are most important. So this is how the book will come to an end. And we will just do the Ucharanam of the first verse, because that will be the Mangalacharana from tomorrow onwards. That Vishnu Prarthana we were doing for Bhagavad Gita in Vedanta Sara, we will be doing this one as the Sankti Mantra before we sing Sankaram Sankaracharya. So let's do Ucharanam of the Mangalacharanam only. You join with me to do Ucharanam, unmute yourselves. Akhandam Satchidananda
Akhandam Satchidanandam
Mavang Manasa Gocharam
Mavang Manasagocharam
Atmanamakhila
Atmanam Akhiladhara
Masraye Bhishta Siddhaye.
Mashaya Ishta Siddhaya.
Okay, so we'll stop here and we will do the meaning of it. It's very simple shloka, but there's a lot of philosophical debate on each word of the shloka. We will start from there tomorrow. So let's do this Santi Mantra. Om Purnamadaha Purnamadaha
पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णस्य
पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
शांति। श्री
श्री
गुरुभ्यो
नमः।
नमः।
हरि ओम्।